Welcome to another Parker's Cars group test, where today we're comparing three small electric SUVs, namely the Hyundai Kona Electric, the Fiat 600e and the Volvo EX30.
Now, these are the kind of cars you buy if a regular hatchback will do the job, but you want something that's a little higher off the ground and more expensive looking. Doesn't sound like much, but these cars are extremely popular, so there's clearly something in it.
To find out which one is best, we're going to give you the world's most thorough group test with an in-depth look at the practicality, comfort, tech, driving and value for money of each car, and at the end we'll come to a proper verdict with first, second and third places.
If at any point in the video you're feeling generous, please hit subscribe and turn your notifications on. Plus, don't forget that the Parker's website has detailed written reviews of each car if you're keen to know more. But now, let's get on with the video.
First up, we're driving the newest car on this test, namely the Volvo EX30. It's the smallest and the cheapest model in Volvo's growing range of cars, starting from around £34,000 and measuring in shorter than a VW Golf. But can it deliver the relaxed, grown-up driving experience that we've come to expect from the larger, more expensive Volvos?
So here's something you probably weren't expecting me to say, and it's that while this is the cheapest Volvo on sale, it can also be the fastest. And that's because if you get the twin-motor performance version, it packs 428 horsepower in a Volvo.
In truth, that's probably a bit unnecessary and not the main reason you buy a car like this. So instead, we've got a single motor extended range version with the 69 kilowatt-hour battery. Even so, it's got 272 horsepower, 343 newton meters of torque, and does 0 to 62 miles an hour in 5.3 seconds. So it is plenty fast enough, and some.
And also, on this version, the power goes through the rear wheel, so that means it's better balanced from a handling perspective. And while I'm not going to lie to you and say that it's incredible fun to drive, it's not, but then what were we really expecting? It is easy to drive, it's got lots of grip, it's nice and tidy, and it doesn't do anything that's going to catch you out. It's the kind of car that only when you really start to send it into corners and be a little bit silly do the tyres start to screech and the body starts to roll a little bit more than you'd like. Otherwise, it's very good.
As is the way the EX30 rides. It really is like a mini XC90 thanks to its pliant suspension and low levels of road and wind noise. This helps make it extremely easy to drive, and while the very light steering might put some people off, it means the EX30 is super manoeuvrable in and around town. You've also got excellent visibility and Volvo's impressive array of safety systems to keep you out of trouble.
There is one thing about the safety systems that is annoying though, and there's a number of them as you get with cars now, but one of them is called Driver Alert. And what I've noticed is that when I'm looking at the central infotainment screen, it starts to tell me to pay attention and it starts bonging at me because it's analysing how I'm driving and looking at me, and it can tell that I'm distracted. And yeah, I would be distracted because all of the physical buttons that you can use without having to look at them have been taken away, and instead there's a touchscreen which you need to look at. So no wonder I'm distracted. And that's fine, you can turn the system off, but again, unsurprisingly, it turns on again every time you switch the car back on, so you need to keep switching it off. Now, obviously, Volvo aren't the only manufacturer to have this issue because it's something that is affecting pretty much all cars really. But this, I don't know why, I think it's that driver alert thing, is extra annoying. Apart from that though, this does drive like a Volvo should. It's pretty quiet, it's comfortable, easy to drive, keeps itself tidy in the corners. Yeah, Volvo's done a good job with it. Well done, Volvo.
So, the EX30 lays down a strong benchmark, but if anything can do better, then surely it's the Hyundai Kona Electric. The South Korean manufacturer has already had one attempt at getting it right with the original version launched in 2018, so can it build on that with this latest model?
Yes, it can, is the short answer. The previous Kona always felt very eager and agile to drive, and while they haven't suddenly turned this into a bus, it does feel more grown up.
Part of this is likely down to the fact that it's a little larger, the wheelbase having been extended by 60mm, but there's also been work to the rear subframe, it's now isolated from the body, and more advanced steels have been used throughout.
The end result is that the Kona Electric has a nice, soft, compliant ride quality. I also think that it's more refined than the EX30 because there's less wind noise. It's the biggest car here, and it also feels it, but its personality is of quite a large luxury car. That's how it feels behind the wheel. A key difference to the Volvo from a handling point of view is that this is front-wheel drive rather than rear-wheel drive, like in the Volvo, and I think you can tell that coming out of corners. If you're quite keen on the power, it does feel like a front-wheel drive car, and the balance isn't quite as sweet. But in all honesty, in most situations on the motorway in town, yeah, you're not going to be able to tell the difference. But it doesn't feel as agile or as keen to push itself into corners as the Volvo does. There's also noticeably more body roll in the corners, and it feels like it's having to work harder to control the amount of mass.
As for performance, all models from advanced trim upwards get the larger 65 kWh battery along with 218 horsepower, 255 Nm of torque, and 0 to 62 miles an hour in 7.8 seconds. Nowhere near as quick as the EX30 then, but still fast enough for this type of car.
I also like how you can change the regen settings with the paddles, because that means that you get a proper one-pedal driving experience. So if I turn it up to the max, I can come off the power and it brakes quite significantly, and that's turning all of that deceleration into energy, and it's also meaning that I don't ever have to touch the brake pedal if you think far enough ahead. So overall, in comparison to the EX30, that isn't a sporty car, I don't think, but this is even less sporty feeling. So it'll come down to personal preference whether you want that extra pace and agility from the Volvo, or the more relaxed feeling of the Kona Electric is more what you're after. Tell you what, one other thing I want to mention are these headrests. They look a bit funny, and you kind of think there's no way that they're going to be comfortable when you see the design of them, but I don't know, this is really nice. This is one of the nicest headrests I've felt in a while.
Last but maybe not least is the Fiat 600e. We know all about the 500e, it's a very good electric city car, so can Fiat repeat the trick with something a little bit bigger? For scale, the 600e sits slap bang in between the VW Polo and VW Golf for length, and is thus the smallest car on this test.
It also has the least amount of power and the smallest battery, with 154 horsepower and 51 kilowatt hours. And as Luke is going to explain later in the test, this is the cheapest car, if you're buying in cash, of the three. So, you know, we'd have loved to have picked the more expensive, more powerful version with the bigger battery to even things up a bit, but the truth is that there isn't one. Actually, this is the only 600e that you can get. So if you're indecisive, then this is ideal for you.
In truth, the straight line speed difference between the 600e and the Kona Electric doesn't feel that pronounced, likely because the former is around 200 kilograms lighter. Trouble is, the amount of body roll means it doesn't feel any more agile in the corners than the Kona Electric, and the over-assisted steering is way too light for anything more than city driving.
Now, anyone who's driven a Fiat of the last 20 years or so will know about city steering mode, because all you do is you press a button on the dashboard and it makes the steering really, really light, which is great around town because it makes the car more maneuverable and there's less effort in turning the wheel, which is good. However, when you're driving at higher speeds on a B road or on a motorway, you kind of want a little bit more weight in the steering. And with this, it honestly feels like city steering mode is always on. It is so light that, I reckon I could probably steer this thing with my nose, actually. Oh yeah. Oh no. Anyway, the payoff to that super light steering and squishy kind of feel to the car is that it is very relaxing and comfortable to drive. It's a really quite serene thing, and there's a bit of wind noise, sure, around the A-pillar there. That can get a bit prominent, but other than that, it's great. And around town, it's definitely your friend. It feels like the kind of car that you can thread seamlessly through city streets. The only thing that's a little bit off is the brake pedal. It's got lots of travel, and for the first couple of inches, it feels like it doesn't do anything. So you'll go to press the brakes, nothing, and then you nearly headbutt the windscreen. I'm not sure if it's just this car, or whether it's something on all 600Es, but it feels like it needs addressing. I do find it interesting with all of these cars, actually, that it wasn't that long ago that it felt like every regular family car or small SUV like this was trying to be sporty, and it ended up very firm and quite hard. Whereas now, on the evidence of these three cars, that's gone completely the other way. They feel like they are far more comfort focused than they are trying to be sporty, which, let's face it, when it's a family SUV, that's got to be a good thing, because it's only in very, very rare cases that they are genuinely sporty. And even then, do you really want that? Or do you want to be comfortable? I know what most people are picking.
Overall then, we reckon the EX30 takes a narrow win in the driving department. However, before Luke takes you through each car's interior, I'm just going to provide a rundown on range and charging, because that is obviously very important. At 65 kilowatt hours, the Hyundai has the largest battery on test and claims 282 miles of combined range, 319 actually if you spec the smaller 17-inch wheels. The EX30 meanwhile has a slightly smaller 64 kilowatt hour battery, yet promises up to 296 miles of range. Finally, the 600e delivers the smallest battery at 51 kilowatt hours and the lowest range at 254 miles. As for charging, the Fiat peaks at 100 kilowatts, the Hyundai at 102.3 kilowatts, and the Volvo at 153 kilowatts. This meaning a 10 to 80% rapid charge in around 30 minutes for every vehicle. However, because the Fiat has a smaller battery, its 0 to full domestic charging from a 7.4 kilowatt unit should only take just over 8 hours versus 10 hours for the other two cars. Right, enough of the numbers, let's talk about interiors.
The EX30 is a really interesting car. So it's the smallest and cheapest model in Volvo's lineup, but the company still managed to make it feel like an upmarket product. I mean, it's packed with just really pleasant features like these polished metal door handles and just a really nice, well-trimmed steering wheel. Naturally, because it's an EV, it's also packed with recycled materials. So the dashboard's made from discarded PVC window frames, the floor mats are made from reclaimed fishing nets, and the door cards and the seat upholstery on some models feature a blend of upcycled denim and polyester. I mean, it's a lovely place to be. We're less enamored by the EX30's technology setup. Volvo's gone down the same route as Tesla and fitted the car with a massive 12.3-inch portrait infotainment screen that, surprise, surprise, is used to control almost every function on the car. It's quite distracting. I mean, even the door mirror adjusters are accessed through a menu on the screen, which seems at odds with a brand so focused on building safe cars. There isn't a digital gauge cluster either, which is a bit weird. I mean, like Tesla's, you need to check your speed by looking at the infotainment screen, which takes a while to readjust yourself if you're used to driving a normal car. The problem would have been solved if Volvo had just fitted the EX30 with a head-up display, a bit like what Mini did for the latest generation Countryman, but it didn't even bother to put one on the options list. Don't get me wrong, I can understand why Volvo's done all this. So by moving everything onto the touchscreen, it can save a hell of a lot of money on switches and gauge panels, and that allows you to drag the car's price down to the £30,000 mark and steal some sales off its more budget-friendly rivals. I mean, let's be honest, if you're faced with the option of buying an MG or buying a Volvo, you're going to pick the Volvo for the badge, aren't you? Volvo's taken a bit of a quirky approach to the EX30 storage as well. So this isn't a traditional centre armrest storage bin. It's totally hollow, which means you can store things through it. And instead, you get this weird 2-stage storage locker in the middle of the dashboard. You also get a glove box where the climate control should be, and can you tell where the cup holders are? No, you're wrong, they're here. It's also worth mentioning how comfortable the EX30's seating position is. There's loads of legroom, and the seats themselves offer good lumbar support and plenty of adjustment. That means folk of all shapes and sizes should stay comfortable on long journeys. The rear seats are another story, mind, but I'll let James explain that in a bit. The Kona's cabin's a lot more conventional than the Volvo's, I mean, at least where modern car interiors are concerned. So instead of having one massive screen in the middle of the dash, you get a screen in front of you for your speed and your safety kit, and then this screen only deals with your media and your nav functions, which is just far more user-friendly. Hyundai hasn't junked its physical buttons either, so you get a row of shortcut switches here for the infotainment screen that allow you to jump between functions on the dash without digging around in a digital menu. You also get a proper physical climate control panel, which means you don't need to divert your attention away from the road to make yourself comfortable like you do in the Volvo. There's a surprising amount of space too. Hyundai's listened to its customers and made its small SUV feel bigger by packaging it more intelligently. The new car's 150mm longer than before, and its wheelbase has grown by 60mm. Plus, its front seat backs are 30% slimmer than before, which has liberated more space inside for passengers. Hyundai designed the Kona's dashboard and centre console quite intelligently too, so it moved the gear selector from here in the middle of the cabin to up here on the steering column, which has freed up all this space for this vast storage bin. I mean, that's easily big enough to hold a handbag or, I don't know, a breeze block. In any case, this is certainly the most practical car we've got here today. Build quality is great too. We've tested a few Konas now, and even the first ones to leave the factory back when Hyundai's production lines were still learning how to build them felt solid. There aren't any squeaks or rattles, which is a good thing because the silence of the EV powertrain only makes faults like that more noticeable. I'd say it takes 5, maybe 10 minutes in my company to understand just how much I love Italian cars, but this is one Italian car I'm not especially fond of. In fact, when I went on the European launch for this and I published my review, my boss's boss got a rather disgruntled phone call from some top brass in Fiat Italy so they could find out why I gave it such an average score. Well, I hope you're listening, Fiat, because I'm about to tell you. It's not that the 600e is an especially bad car, it just doesn't lead the class in any area. And it's a shame because I know that Fiat can do so much better. I mean, it proved that point with the 500e, and I'm disappointed that the brand's engineers couldn't capture that car's spirit when it was piecing together this one. I mean, it just doesn't really feel like a Fiat in here. But this is to be expected because the 600e isn't really a Fiat product. It's based on the same underpinnings as the Jeep Avenger, and the part sharing between the two cars is especially noticeable inside. The 600e's digital gauge cluster, infotainment system and centre console are all completely identical to the Avenger's. This isn't ideal because the 600e's infotainment system is far from being one of the best systems on the market. I mean, the graphics already look dated, especially when you compare it to the hyper-futuristic display you get in the EX30. And it's really laggy when swapping between menus. I mean, at least Fiat had the common sense to include some proper physical climate controls here on the dashboard, which makes it a lot easier to use when you're on the move. Quality is a bit hit and miss, so I mean the most common touch points such as the steering wheel and this flap that covers the enormous central storage bin are pretty good. But the plastics on the centre console and the door cards feel like they were pulled from a Super Mini, which, I mean, I suppose is fair enough. It's a reasonably affordable car, so we can forgive that, but I don't know. Overall, it just doesn't do it for me.
So starting with the EX30, and it's a bit of a mixed bag in here from a practicality point of view because we've got some good and some bad points. The good points is the storage space and the design, because these seats look very interesting from where you're sitting behind here. That's a bit new and different from other cars. There's a nice place for your phone there. There's 2 USB-C points. There's a really big storage area underneath in the center console. We've got a door pocket here, and look at this design of this door handle. I think it looks really interesting. So it isn't like they've abandoned the design once you sit in the back. However, there are some bits that are less than perfect. So the knee room, it's okay, could be better. Front room is not bad. I can get my feet under the seat in front, got a pocket there. Headroom again, that's okay. And there's also no central tunnel, so those in the middle seat can get their feet in a comfortable position. There's no center armrest that folds down, and that means there's no cup holders either. But one of the things that I do think will cause a bit of an issue for families is the fact that the doors, they don't open that wide. It's quite a shallow kind of opening. You can only just see me without the door getting in the way there. So yeah, there's some good points and some bad points in the back of the EX30. Into the Kona Electric, and surprise, surprise, the biggest car here has the most space in the back. So, got plenty of knee room, got a nice pocket behind the front seat as well. I can slide my big size 10s underneath the front seat, so that's very comfortable. There's also no central tunnel in the middle, so those in the middle seat will be happy. Got plenty of headroom. I've got an armrest with cup holders in, fabulous. And check this out, got a 3-pin plug down here, which is excellent. I can plug my hairdryer in or my air fryer or anything like that. There's also a couple of USB-C points, a couple of vents. These headrests are quite odd to look at from behind. But if you're looking at these cars from a practicality point of view, the Kona Electric is very strong. Finally, into the 600e, and as you can see, things are a little bit tight in here. Again, I'm behind my own driving position like I was in the other two cars, but I've barely got anywhere to put my knees. In fact, if I slouch a little bit, you can see that my knees are actually touching the seat, so that's not great. In terms of foot room, well, I can get my feet quite comfortably under the front seat, but that's a good thing because otherwise there'd be nowhere to put them. Headroom, to be fair, is about the same as the Kona Electric, and it's better than the EX30, so that's a plus point. But then if I look down here, it just starts to go wrong again because there's a central tunnel in this car, because of course you can get a hybrid version of it as well, and they've carried over the same platform, and that means that, yeah, there's a big lump there, and if you're sitting in the middle seat, you're going to have to thread your feet either side of it into the outside passenger's foot room. So that's not ideal. Also, there's only one USB-C point, which seems to me to be cost-cutting taken to the max. I'm not really sure that's entirely necessary, but there we go. And then also, there's no center armrest or anywhere to put any drinks because of it. So, I've got to be honest, for practicality, it's not great back here.
As for boot space, the larger Kona Electric streaks ahead with 466 litres of capacity with all 5 seats in place and 1300 litres with the rear ones folded down. There's also a handy storage solution for the rear parcel shelf, which does come in handy. Meanwhile, in the Volvo, overall space is lower at 318 litres seats up and 904 litres seats down. Finally, the Fiat comes in with a very respectable 360 litres seats up and 1231 litres seats down. Overall then, the Kona Electric takes the win on practicality. Now, onto finance.
Volvo's been incredibly aggressive with the EX30's pricing strategy. I mean, the most basic one starts from £33,795, which is the same sort of money you'll spend on an equivalently spec version of the bargain hunter's favourite new EV, the MG4. I mean, that's just cracking value. It's absolutely bursting with equipment too. So even the entry-level model comes with automatic LED headlights, front and rear parking sensors, a rear-facing camera, heated front seats, and a wireless smartphone charger. Even the stereo's banging. I mean, you get a really good Harman Kardon soundbar across the front of the dashboard, and it kicks out a surprising amount of bass. Stepping up to the range-topping Ultra model nets you a panoramic sunroof, a 360-degree parking camera, and electrically adjustable seats. You also get Volvo's Park Pilot Assist system, which will help you find a space that's big enough to put the car in, and then it will steer into it for you. There is quite a big difference in price though, so it starts around £42,000, which is a big jump from the base model. Happily, the EX30 makes slightly better sense on finance. So at the time of filming, the best deal that we could find was a 36-month contract with £4,300 down and monthly payments of about £450 a month after that. That means it's the middle option here, but we're expecting those prices to come down over the next few months, because don't forget, this is a brand new car. I mean, this is barely on sale in the UK right now, so prices are going to start coming down as more cars hit our showrooms. If you want one, maybe wait for a little bit longer. Prices for the Kona Electric start from £34,995. That means it's around £1,000 more expensive than the EX30. And the Hyundai's cabin isn't as well equipped, although you do get a heat pump as standard, which greatly improves the efficiency of the battery pack, and that's an optional extra on the Volvo. Other standard equipment for the most basic Hyundai Kona Electric Advance includes a 12.3-inch digital gauge cluster, a 12.3-inch infotainment screen, manually adjustable seats, and 4 USB ports dotted around the cabin. The car we have here today wears Hyundai's flagship Ultimate specification, so prices start from around £43,000, which again makes it more expensive than the top spec version of the EX30. But you do get a lot of equipment, so standard kit includes suede and leather seat upholstery, you get a customizable interior ambient lighting system, a wireless smartphone charger, and electrically adjustable heated and cooled front seats. Oh yeah, there's also a really, really good Bose stereo system in it. Finance deals are incredibly attractive too, so you can get a 65 kilowatt-hour Kona Electric in advanced spec for just £280 a month. That's on a 36-month contract with £2,700 down. That's half as much as the Fiat and slightly less than the Volvo, so it just makes way better sense. The Fiat 600e's saving grace is its price, or at least up to a point. I'll explain. So at the time of recording, Fiat was offering this car with a £3,000 discount, which drags its cash price down to £30,000. I mean, that's surprisingly good value, and it makes it a little easier to forgive some of its foibles. Leasing's a different story altogether though. I mean, the 600e makes far worse sense on finance simply because it's just landed on UK shores. So again, at the time of recording, the best deal that we could find was a 36-month contract with a £5,000 deposit and payments of £520 a month. I mean, that just sounds ridiculous when you compare it to the other two cars here, especially because they're objectively better. If you want a 600e, my advice to you would be to bide your time. Like the Volvo, we expect the prices for these leasing deals will come down over the next few months as more cars reach our showrooms, so hold your horses. For me, this verdict's an easy one to call. The 600e comes stone dead last thanks to its floppy driving dynamics, lackluster electric range, and subpar passenger space. In fact, I reckon its only redeeming feature is that, at the time of recording, Fiat was flogging it with a healthy £3,000 discount. The Kona's a safe choice, so it gets second place. It's not the most exciting option in its class, but it's spacious, dependable, and well equipped, and that makes it a great choice for families looking to start their eco-friendly motoring mission. Plus, it has a maximum official range of more than 300 miles, which means you won't need to rent a diesel car for long breaks.
But the Volvo stands head and shoulders above its rivals. It's one of the most interesting and best value electric cars we've driven all year. Yes, the interior isn't as spacious as the Konas and its ride isn't as pliant as the 600es, but it offers the best performance, the best build quality, the best technology, and the sharpest driving experience.
Its price is its biggest selling point though. This is a Volvo which, let's not forget, is an upmarket brand designed to rival the likes of BMW and Mercedes, but it costs the same amount of money as an equivalent Fiat.
That's stunning value, and what's even more impressive is that Volvo hasn't achieved it by cutting corners. The EX30 feels every bit as premium as its more expensive siblings. But do you agree with our verdict? Let us know in the comments section below.